We seem to be awash in conspiracy theories, not just on the right, but also on the left. It seems to be an endemic part of not just Americans, but almost all humans in almost all civilizations to wonder what nefarious plots are being enacted against your country, against you personally, your family. And Americans tend to cycle into this stuff pretty frequently. I remember when I was a kid, we were all obsessed with conspiracies about JFK. That hasn't gone away, has it? But culture war has exacerbated it, and there's been a lot of discussions online lately about how you can analyze conspiracy theories for which ones are more plausible than others. How you argue with a person who's very fetishistic and a real lapel grabber, real heat about their absolute sureness that they can see the problem. They can see what's going on, while all the powers that be are either in cahoots or too stupid to see what's going on, and certainly their neighbors are hopeless sheep. Well, a lot of people have been making their own lists of rules regarding conspiracies. In the online version of this talk, you can see some of those, but I'm going to stick to mine. And the first of these is one that almost everybody mentions, and that is, sure, there are conspiracies. There have been for thousands of years. But their ability to remain secret is inversely proportional to the number of people who have to be involved. There's an old saying, in a conspiracy of 3, 1 is a fool and 2 are police spies. Well, that's a truism, and it's not necessarily at all true. But there's a certain element of truth to it. And that is, the more people who can blab, the more likely you're going to get to a situation like the prisoner's dilemma. Look it up. The prisoner's dilemma, where if you have a conspiracy with a bunch of henchmen, and one of them suddenly realizes, I could become famous, a hero, and get a lot of money and be on talk shows if I just turn all these bastards in. Well, it puts it, and everybody's thinking that. It puts a little bit of an onus on the conspiracy. Envision your extreme example, James Bond films, in which Blofeld has hundreds and hundreds of eager henchmen who are willing to die for him, charging at James Bond, falling to machine gun fire, in order to help Blofeld to poison gas the world, kill 6 billion people, including most of their own families. Try to follow the logic of what you have in mind. A corollary of this is that the conspiracies rely upon henchmen when the motive, methods, and results of the conspiracy would offend the normal conscience. Your likelihood of keeping a conspiracy secret is inversely proportional not only to the number, but the fraction of normal human beings who would be offended by it. You may ask, why are they able to keep secret, say for instance, a new stealth bomber or a new military technology? Because to a great many people, thousands of people involved in this conspiracy, in the silence, in the secrecy of this project, there's nothing heinous about it at all. They're just helping to defend their country. If you can come up with a conspiracy such that the vast majority of the implementers are fooled into thinking that way, you've got a little bit of a leg up. Otherwise, you've got a real problem. Another is that they must not only be obedient henchmen, but they have to be competent. Now, these two run against each other. Because if they are competent, skilled people, then they're less easy to fool with some rationalization. I remember I visited a friend who was an engineer at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. That is the base where supposedly Hangar 18 is kept, where the Air Force does really top priority research. Hangar 18 is supposedly the place where the aliens' bodies are kept and where the the UFO is kept. And my friend talked to me and he said, here's the worst thing about that story. You ask people who would have been studying this spacecraft all this time at high priority. Oh, government engineers. The best engineers? Yes, absolutely, they would assign the best to study this alien spacecraft, the most competent. He then stuck out his lower lip in a pout and he said, I thought I was the best. In other words, he had never been invited. Nobody he knew had ever been invited. And if you're talking about 1947 for Roswell, how many generations of your best engineers would you have had to plow through that place in order to keep a secret that doesn't make any sense to keep secret? Okay, so inverse relationship to the number and the heinousness of the conspiracy. You also need competent people to run a conspiracy, and that runs against most conspiracies. It's not impossible, but it's a heavy weight. It puts a burden of proof. Another is follow the money. Most conspiracies have to do with money. Most conspiracies out in the world have to do with taking money out of your pockets and giving it to some guy who wants to be elite and powerful. Either a criminal or a foreign elite, commercial elite, guys who are already elites. We Americans especially are raised on a mythology called suspicion of authority. And under this mythology, a decent Democrat is worried about somebody trying to become Big Brother, usually a faceless corporation or conspiring aristocrats and oligarchs. A decent Republican is concerned about the same thing, somebody trying to become Big Brother, only she is most likely worried about snooty academics and faceless government bureaucrats. This common thread of worry about accumulations of undue power and authority is part of what's kept us free. But it also keeps us constantly attuned to, ooh, is that a conspiracy? Ooh, is that a conspiracy? And the irony is, it makes us disinclined to notice conspiracies that might be taking place among the elites that we consider good. You're seeing that an awful lot today. Excuse making for obvious conspiratorial elites because they happen to be on your side. I'm talking to you lefties, I'm talking to you righties. Another is, basically, you have to ask this question. Could the outcome you describe be explained by a simpler hypothesis? It's called Occam's razor. It's an important principle in science. Scientists apply it all the time. If you come up with a grand conspiracy to explain either a garish event or some outcome you don't like, and it's just as easily explained by something else, then that adds to your burden of proof. For example, every single statistical unambiguous metric of United States national health plummeted under the rule of the neoconservatives. That's an inarguable fact because I've been asking them for 2 years, some of the smartest of them, to name one unambiguous statistical measure of national health that rose at all as a result of their extended rule. This would normally make one ponder the possibility that such a perfect record might have been deliberate. On the other hand, there is an old saying, never ascribe to nefarious purpose that which might be explained much better by blithering, incompetent, dogmatic, moronic stupidity. It could be this. It's a simpler hypothesis. So the burden of proof is on anybody who contends that there was a conspiracy to actually harm the United States of America. I'm going to finish off this part 1 right now because I've done 5 of the 10 components of my recommended list of things to do when you run into a conspiracy theory. I'll continue next time. That is, if they let me.